recap of the ball game this past Saturday. You go back and look at the film. Sometimes you don't get a complete sense of everything. I was proud of the fast start by our football team. Something we really wanted to emphasize coming into the game: our ability to come out of the blocks, playing fast football. Excuse me, in all three phases, and obviously we're able to do that by getting some points on the board, playing defense the way we were playing, generating the lead that we were hopeful we could generate. I thought was very encouraging. Really encouraged by our special teams play. Continues to impress me. I think we continue to get better there. Obviously, the fake punt was executed perfectly. The blocked field goal, return for the touchdown. I thought our kick coverage unit was much better. We were extremely close to really breaking two kickoff returns. The one I know we're all aware of is Marvin Hall just stepping out of bounds, but there's another one for down the middle of the field we just missed, so I think we can clean that up. If there is an area that needs continued attention, it is our punting game, and then our coverage unit within the punting game. I think we saw a bit of a breakdown there, so that'll be a point of emphasis of ours. I thought it was good that Travis was able to hit another field goal, struck the ball well again. So all that phase of the game was good. I was also impressed, really challenged the guys at halftime about coming out in the third quarter and executing, covering that opening kickoff to start the second half, getting the 3 and out on defense, getting the ball on offense, and going right down and scoring, which we were able to do. So those things were all really good positives coming out of the game. Thought we got the ball to our playmakers. Austin made his plays. Casey made his plays. Keith threw the ball well. Bishop, I think, on 14 carries, went over 100 yards and probably could still find some more yards out there for himself, which I think as he gets more comfortable, he will. Areas that weren't so good, just like every other game. And I think I'm not going to exhaust myself on this, but I think we were flagged 8 times in the first half again in the game, and for a variety of penalties, which is unacceptable. And as we get into these tighter ball games, that's not going to work. And so that is something that's been addressed by us. Our ability now to execute when not all of our starters are on the field, I think is again another something for a point of emphasis for us as our backups are playing. Their ability to go in and execute at a high level and do the things that they need to do. And I thought we were spotty at best in the second half at doing that on both sides of the ball. So some things there to clean up. I would say just in general for the game, coming out of that thing, we've all been part of them or seen them where those games all of a sudden are close early on, and the other team, those opponents can hang around, they get close, they get nerve-wracking. I thought it was good for our team to come out and have such a dominating first half, understand the sense of urgency to start the second half, and then from our coaching staff's perspective, the ability to respect the game and respect Nigel and their coaching staff and do it with class there in the second half. So all in all, it's a good win. I was trying to count up the other day. We did it with a bevy of starters not able to play for, so it was good. A lot of guys got a lot of extended playing time, which they might normally not have gotten, which I think will benefit us down the road. I think we're getting the bye week at a much needed time from not only a health standpoint, but things that we need and can work on that can get fixed in a short amount of time, and then on to getting ready for Stanford. So it comes at a good time.
Questions? Sorry, you talked about the bye coming at a good time. What are the things that maybe really need to focus on?
Well, I think one is we have an idea of the runs that we like now. I think we're starting to figure out what these guys do well, and so now we can get a little bit more creative in that area as far as running the ball and getting ourselves to a point to the runners are running the things that they're good at and getting multiple reps at that, so that's at a good time. Back to the drawing board on creating a pass rush. We haven't done a very good job of that in the first 3 games, and so it allows us to spend a good 4 days of a bye week in generating that pass rush, whether it's through scheme or through technique or through where guys are playing in certain situations is another area that I think we can only get better at. I think a huge area for us is we've been mixing and matching players in the kickoff return game for us and in the punt return game. And I think we know who our guys are now, and we really can focus on the fundamentals and techniques for them, because I think we have a chance to be a special return unit. We've got some guys back there that can really go, and Marvin Hall, Jadon Mickens. We haven't gotten Shaq quite enough returns, but I think he as well, and then Kevin Smith. So I want to use that to our advantage, because I think we can be an elite special teams football team in our conference, and that's the one, I guess, piece to the puzzle that needs to get fixed. And then fixing the punting game. We're just inconsistent right now, and so we'll give Travis Kuhn some more opportunities to compete with Corey Durkee at that spot, because we can't just live with 30-yard punts and then give and not hang time, and those guys getting big returns on us. So we have to clean that up as well. So that's a few things. Obviously, there's other nuances within the position groups, but those are four pretty big main ones for us.
What is the schedule like for this week? I mean, this isn't really a bye. I mean, I guess not a true bye with Stanford coming up on Thursday.
We are game planning for Stanford as we speak. And so tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday will be a pretty typical work week, as if we were in a game week. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but with some emphasis on a little bit more of individual time. We'll extend that individual period to work on those nuances we need to work on. We'll do a bit more goods on goods so that we can stay having the physical practice atmosphere. And then the players will have Friday off, and then we'll come back Saturday, and Saturday will be what would be the Monday of game week. And so we get a few extra days to game plan, but then come Saturday, it's game week for us.
What have you seen out of the freshmen through the first 3 games of the non-conference schedule, highs and lows?
Oh, man, I gotta jump around here. I think we've seen, you said highs and lows, I think we've seen a little bit of that inconsistency that is understandable. I think we've seen some flashes of them making the plays that we expect them to make, and we see some mistakes that I expect them to make at times. And now we have an idea, I think, of what they do well, and whether that's on the offense or defensive side of the ball, whether that's the special teams game. And now it's our job to try to continually put them in position to do those things that they do well when the lights are on. And then the things that we want them to be better at, so we can use them at that, we have to practice it. We have to practice it more, and we have to do the extra work, and that's what bye weeks are for. So that's why it comes at a good time for us, because I see some real positives in what Eric Wilson does running the football, and some other things in his game that are pretty glaring holes that we need to fix. Same with the Jadon Mickens or a Marvin Hall. And then you look at the defensive side of the ball and Pio Vatave and where he's at. Shaq and what he's brought to the defense in some areas where I think we can help him play faster, more physical football that we know he's capable of. So there's definite things there that I think we can help our guys with.
What have you thought of Shaq's growth here in the first few weeks, and what do you think when Saturday?
He's a really mature guy. He's if you met him in the hall and you just talked to him casually, I don't think you'd think of him as an 18-year-old true freshman. And whether that was because of the baseball thing and spending that time with some grown men, on the road or whatever that was, he's just got a real maturity about himself, and he recognizes the areas where he needs to continue to work on things. But he's a neat kid. I enjoy him. I like having him around. I think he'll become a natural team leader here much quicker than maybe most would assume. And I think just the blocked field goal is just a glimpse of what we're going to see out of this guy from the big play potential he provides us. I mean, we saw it in training camp. Sometimes guys can slow down a bit once the season begins and the lights are on, but we're starting to see this guy making his plays and react a little bit quicker, and that'll only come. And his physicality is obviously, a big plus to that as well, because he can get people on the ground right at that moment, but he doesn't get knocked back. And so I like what he brings. I think that this will be a great week for him to go back to some of the base fundamentals and techniques that are needed to do his job really well. And sometimes when you get going into game weeks, it's more about the game plan, and sometimes technique can suffer. So for a guy like Shaq, for us to be able to go back and focus for 4 days on using his hands, being in the right alignment, understanding the formation and where to get a line based on where the receiver is. All those things will only help him put himself in position to be the playmaker that we think he's capable of being.
How do you think that nickelback, hybrid linebacker things work for your defense?
I think it's been great. It's provided a lot of team speed. And, obviously we played Saturday without Travis Feeney, who was another guy who dropped down to provide the team speed. When we get Fellner back, I think, again, another guy in that same type of body type that can really run. I thought it's helped. I feel like right now, and I'm not just talking about Shaq, but just that nickelback, he's not only a big part of us in the coverage game and stopping the run, but his ability to rush the passer and blitz the quarterback is got to get better as well. And just timing of blitzes and the willingness to go, because he has that ability too. So I think that position will only evolve for us and help us down the road as we continue to grow.
Paul hadn't played the first couple of weeks. Was it just a matter of just this was a good week to get him in there?
Yeah, it's just where he fit into the game plan and what we were doing and assessing a couple things the first 2 weeks of what we were doing, not in the return game and then a bit offensively. So I'd like to see his role expand. He's a fast kid and he gives us something different. And to his credit, he kept working at it. Some guys, they don't play the first game, they just say, oh, okay, I'm redshirting and this is what it is. He battled and competed and wanted to play and earned playing time and did some good things. I think we'll see more of him.
Steve, you talked about how the team responded to your challenge halftime. Has that had carryover into even post-game and beyond into this week?
I think so. We had a really, for a group that we like to have so much fun together and we've got a great relationship with the players and the coaches and so on and so forth, it was a really serious meeting this morning, and not necessarily intended to be one, but from a player standpoint, I think there's a real sense of accountability that is taking shape in our locker room, and guys understand the responsibility that they have on each and every snap to one another, and instead of us having to go and harp on it, they already have recognized it, and I think that's what good teams have. They can recognize the issues that they're being faced with and then how they need to fix those issues and what they're going to do about them. And so it's great, to win a game in the fashion that we did, but the maturity of this team to recognize that there are plenty of issues that need to be fixed and let's get to work mentality, I thought was evident today. So I was pleased with that.
Is one of those the penalties? Obviously, that's been a huge thing for you. Have they started to understand that a little bit more, especially in the serious team meeting this morning?
I think in the second half we got 2 penalties as opposed to 8 in the first. And I'm a realist that penalties are going to happen. I'm not going to think that we're going to go out, next Thursday night and have 0 penalties. I understand that that's part of the game, but there are specific penalties that we can eliminate. There are others that we can minimize. And those are the ones that I think have us all frustrated. Delay games, those shouldn't happen. And for us to be doing that is absurd. To have 2 false starts at home in our stadium is absurd to me. To hit a guy laid out of bounds doesn't make sense. To taunt a guy 20 yards behind an interception for a touchdown, that doesn't make sense to me. So those are the ones that we need to fix. And I get we're going to get a holding penalty here and there. I get we're going to get called for a pass interference here and there. That's the game of football. But the self-inflicted wounds are the ones that I'm talking about that I think we can clean up.
What do you think of the Stanford game, especially with them coming up next, the USC Stanford?
I was excited. You guys know me well enough now. I love being a fan of college football. And that's why we all love playing the 1 o'clock games, you guys probably included. You play, the game's done, and then you get to be a fan in the afternoon and evening. And so it was an exciting game. I thought it was a great game for our conference, a competitive game. Stanford looks like Stanford, big physical team, going to run the football, defend the run. There's a bunch of really close bang plays that you could probably add up on one hand that made the difference in the ball game. And so good for our conference, good game. I don't know enough. Technically, we haven't. I'm just getting started on Stanford, so I can't give you the specifics of all of what happened. But it was a good game. They held a very talented USC team in check.
Even though you guys do the 1 game at a time thing, I'm sure when the schedule came out, you probably looked at this, Stanford or USC, you probably looked at this
Yeah, I would agree, the way our schedule's set up to have the first three, then the bye, and then start conference play, it just kind of was a natural, it's like we're heading into the second quarter, I mean, the first quarter's done, long TV timeout here, and then we get to go play conference play, and we get the three teams that have had the best record, best records in our conference the last 4 years combined, and so, I'm hopeful we get some of these guys back that haven't been able to play for us. I'm excited for the opportunity to play a nationally televised game on a Thursday night with the entire country watching, and with our fans there rocking and rolling like the Huskies know how to do it. I'm pumped for that opportunity, but we've got quite a bit of time until that moment, and when that time comes, we'll worry about it. But until then, the focus is going to remain on ourselves and us, and doing the little things that are going to make a difference in tight ball games late in the fourth quarter.
Steve, what was your assessment of the offensive line with all the newcomers?
Not bad, not bad. Again, learning them as well. I'm learning Shane Brostick, I'm learning James Atto, I'm learning Dexter Charles. I thought Micah Hatchie had a very impressive game. The kid Marquise Jackson is a big-time player for Portland State. I mean, sometimes you don't think, that Portland State, they're not a big-time guy. He's a big-time player. I mean, two-time, all-conference guy transferring in, and somebody who we were actually contemplating bringing in here. And I thought Micah had a nice ball game on him. I thought Drew Schaefer was in good command in the middle of the thing. I thought Dexter and Shane flashed. They do some really good stuff and other stuff that they'll get better at with experience. So all in all, a good performance for those guys. Do we need to play better as we continue to move forward? Sure we do, but for the first time for a few of those guys really playing an extended amount of time, I was pleased.
Steve, I don't know if you're aware of the Pac-12 commissioner and saying he might at least entertain the idea of standardizing how injuries are reported in the conference. I don't know if you're aware of that, and would you be in favor of that?
I did see that. It's funny you asked that. I spoke to Scott Woodward, our athletic director, kind of after I read that, because the first thing that came to mind to me was I'm all for it. I think that if we standardize the mechanism for updating your injury reports, and it puts everybody on the same competitive playing field in that regard, I'm all for it. And I'm hopeful that can happen sooner rather than later, because I think it would be the best thing for our conference, for me, for you guys, for everybody involved in this, for our fans, to make that happen.
Have the coaches in the past among yourselves discussed that?
It hasn't been a topic of discussion, no. I would imagine that it's we're going to be talking about it here pretty quickly, though.
In the NFL, did you think that was effective when you were there? I mean, it's
I
kind
think-
of a broad thing that they do, and it can be very vague.
Well, I think everybody's going to try to find a loophole through something there, but at least it forces your hand to do something, and it puts everybody under the same rules and regulations, and rather than it being nothing, which is where we are today. And I think that it serves its purpose in the NFL. Is it ideal? I don't know. And maybe Larry Scott can come up with something better than what the NFL utilizes. I don't know that. But I'd definitely be in favor of something that at least puts an umbrella over all of us and says these are the guidelines that you have to operate within. And I think that'd help everybody.
Is there a concern, though, that if the Pac-12 does it, the SEC doesn't, that, like, we could play LSU? I mean,
Well,
those
maybe,
kinds of things.
I don't know if they have something in that says when you're in non-conference games that you don't report. I don't know. And I'm not trying to be an expert on it by any means, but again, I would be in favor of something that put us all within the guidelines that we would all operate in, and then it would make everybody's life a lot easier.
Steve, why do you think this is happening?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not sure, because I think it's been going on. I know there's been schools in our conference that have been doing it for years where they haven't reported injuries, and but for whatever reason, we decided not to. It's become a pretty big deal that maybe I wasn't expecting.
Talk about
locker room at halftime with a 3-point lead or down 3, or if it's late in the fourth quarter and we need to get a stop. I mean, we lived this game a year ago with Eastern Washington. So the way the game went was, I think, encouraging to them and to me, that the way we started the ball game, we came out with a purpose. We played with a real sense of purpose. I thought we practiced that way last week with a real sense of purpose. And we were able to carry that over to the ball game. And that was probably the most encouraging thing to the players as well as the coaches, in that when you practice a certain way and you apply what you practice, from the moment that first kickoff starts the ball game, that you can perform at a certain level and good things come out of that, I think was the most encouraging thing that they got out of it, and has helped them come back to work this week, knowing that there's even more things to work on. And when they work on it with a purpose and then carry them over to the game, I think they're understanding that more good things can come. And so in that aspect, definitely it helped.
You mentioned your young linemen and some young receivers too. When you throw your wide receiver screens and those kind of bubbles, you rely on those guys, the linemen move and get out there and know what they're doing, and the receivers to block downfield and make those plays effective. How do you think those groups have done that this year?
We've done pretty good. You know, we've gotten casing on the perimeter on some of that stuff. We've never been a huge screen team. You know, we average probably about 3 to 4 screens a game. There's other games we'll call more and other games we won't. But the effect that it has when you have athletic linemen that can get downfield is a big advantage for us. And so as we're going forward with the Shane Brostics, the Dexter Charles, those types of guys that can get to the second level, I would imagine that can become part of our offense to utilize what those guys do well. It is also another way when you've got young receivers, there's so much concentration and attention to detail to line up and then to run the right route down the field. When you can have an opportunity just to get them involved in the game by getting them a bubble screen or hit screen to where they have the ball, and then they can run and get tackled and get in the flow of the game. That's another reason why we would do stuff like that. So it works both ways for us, but it's been fine so far. I think we can be better at it because I think we have the personnel that can be pretty good at that type of stuff.
See, if everyone knows that Austin, Kaysen are Keith's favorite targets, how important is it for him to find that third guy that maybe can help relieve some of the pressure?
Well, I think it's helpful, and I think right now that's just kind of coming by committee. I think we were all hopeful James Johnson could kind of be that guy in training camp. Obviously, didn't turn out so great. Kevin Smith stepped up and had a couple pretty nice catches against LSU. Wasn't able to go last week. DeAndre Campbell steps in, has a couple big catches, his first touchdown catch. I'd like to think that we'll get more out of Jadon Mickens than we've gotten out of so far. I think Marvin Hall will bring something to the table. I think Kendall Taylor's going to help. I think Cody Bruns is going to help. So I don't know if we're just going to have a bona fide third wide receiver that we're going to completely lean on, but I think we have enough people within our personnel that can do specific different things. And there might be some games when one of them catches 4 or 5 balls, and then next week it could be somebody different, and I'm okay with that.